Guardians of the Galaxy. This was requested a couple times, and I finally got it so that I liked how it came out. So if you guys like this tutorial, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. So to start off, you're gonna wanna block out your eyebrows. There's 1,010,000 different videos on YouTube on how to do it, and maybe one day I'll show you guys exactly how I do mine. Basically, I just cover it with Spirit Gum, and then once the Spirit Gum is not tacky, it's dry, I powder it, and then I put liquid latex on top of that. And you can put a couple different layers of liquid latex to kind of help block out your eyebrows. And then for this piece, I actually just put liquid latex into a plate, a styrofoam plate, and then just peeled it off when it dried. And then once you have that kind of piece, just because Groot doesn't have a nose, this is kind of painful to put on, to be honest. My nose kind of hurt afterwards. But I just put Spirit Gum on the sides of my face, patted it to make it tacky, and then just put that sucker on there. Now what I would do is I would start by gluing the piece to your nose first, and then gluing the pieces on the sides of your face at the same time, just to save you a little bit of pain. And also, if you're going to do this, I would glue down the front part first, so that you don't make the mistake that I did and have the front part of your latex piece being a little bit too short. Measure twice, cut once. That's all I gotta say. Because it does become a real pain in the butt to try to actually glue this part down. But I still like how it came out, so. And then once you have it all glued down with Spirit Gum to blend it into your skin a little bit better, you're gonna blend the edges out with a little bit more liquid latex. Before you put any liquid latex on yourself at all, do a spot test on your wrist to make sure you're not allergic. And then once the liquid latex is dried, you can powder it. Please make sure it's completely dry first, because it will ruin your brushes. It's happened to me a few times. You do not want that to happen to you. Now for the fun part. What I did was basically draw out the parts of his head that are not actually there, because Groot is a tree. And if you're gonna do it like me and have a black background, I would do it with black. If you have a white background, same deal. And then I just stippled on some brown face paint all over my face with a sponge. I just ripped the bottom half to give it more texture, and I really like how it came out, as weird as that sounds. And then you're basically going to stipple any part of you that's going to be exposed and tree-like, like Groot. And then of course, don't forget your ears, because Groot doesn't have ears, so you want to paint those black to match your background. And then with that same sponge that's been ripped on the bottom just to give it a little bit more texture, you're going to want to stipple on the brown anywhere that you're going to be Grootified. I totally made that word up. Now for this part, it actually doesn't have to be perfect. I liked the way some spots were darker than others. I felt it gave a more tree-like appearance, and because my face came out a little bit darker than I wanted it to. Still like it, but you know. And then Groot has some moss growing on his head and also on different parts around his face. So you just want to take a brush and place it on there, and if you're going to stipple to blend, just be careful that you don't get it into black, because you will leave marks on your head, and yeah, hopefully you can just play it off like I did. And then to draw in the cracks and different crevices on his face, I just use a darker brown. This part I literally just looked at a picture of Groot to kind of get an idea where the cracks were and how they looked. You can do that as well if you want. He did have a sunken in part of his face that I tried to replicate by just making a bunch of cracks in about half of my face, and it actually worked out better than I thought it was going to. What you can do instead, if you want to make it more 3D, like much effectsy is you can make a latex piece for your cheeks just to make them higher. So that way you can get that same effect in a more three-dimensional way, especially if you're going to be cosplaying this out in the open where there's no black backgrounds. And then for his teeth, I basically just drew in a couple lines, kind of like you would for a sugar skull. And it actually tickled a lot. And then I took some brown eyeshadow and started coloring around my eyes just to give them a more sunken in look. And I also did that around the lower part of my cheeks where I wanted them a little bit more sunken in. This is actually a lot harder to achieve this part because I have really round cheeks, but I did like the way it came out. And then, as with everything else, if you're gonna contour, you're gonna want to also highlight to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional, give it a little bit more life. And my favorite part, I started drawing in these vines. I know he doesn't necessarily have vines, he has like tree roots with moss on them, but this was cool, so I went with it. And basically what you're gonna do is draw in the vines, and then when you start doing the shading, just keep in mind that some vines are going to be on top of others, so they're not necessarily going to have the same like shading lines. Just keep that in mind. Just like before, I also contoured a little bit around the outside of the vines just to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional, and I thought it actually looks really, really cool when you do it like that. Yay, shading! And that's pretty much it. So if you guys like this tutorial, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I had so much fun doing this. Subscribe to see what comes out of my channel next, and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you want to see at some point on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!